This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. I've got a little toy machine here. It's from the 1960s, an interesting vintage machine called a sister, and I'm doing some hems on it just to show what can be done on the simplest of machines. Sometimes people get discouraged because they don't have the very fanciest machine, so I'm taking it to extremes to show what can be done. This is a mock rib hem. That's how it looks on the outside. That's how it looks on the inside, and it pulls in a little bit. There are lots of uses for it. I think it's an attractive hem. It lies flat and it looks like ribbing, but it's not ribbing. It is a mock rib. To make a mock rib hem, I'm going to have every third needle in work. So I have a group of needles out, and I'm pushing 2 back and leaving each of the third needles in. And I'm going to start with ravel cord. I am putting a clothespin on the ravel cord, and I'm going to thread this little machine. I'm putting it in the feeding slot, through the little take-up spring, under this little tension wheel, and then through that slot right there. And I approach the knitting, go across slowly, stop and check and make sure that all the needles knitted, and they did just fine. I've unthreaded the ravel cord from the machine on that side, and I'm taking the clothespin off here, pulling the two together and putting a clothespin on just to weight that down. Now I'm ready for the waste yarn part of the job. I am going to bring out the next needle to the left of each of the needles I already have. So I'll have 2 needles working and 1 needle resting. That's my needle arrangement. And this is yarn I'm going to throw away. I'm just using it to make an edge so that I can start the real yarn and make the garment, or the sample in this case. So I've threaded my green yarn, and I'm approaching the knitting. I go across, push my needles back, and just check them. I wanted to make sure that all the needles knitted. I find it very helpful to put claw weights on the work after I have a few rows on. Now I'm going to use the ravel cord to make a divider row between the last row of the green and the first row of the sample. So I'm pulling the ravel cord out that I used before, and I'm going to thread it on this side this time. And run across. Once again, I like to add a little weight to the ends. It makes it easier for the machine to knit it on through. So I'll use the clothespins for that again, one on each end of the ravel cord. And now I'm ready for the yarn for the actual sample. I have some yellow-orange yarn here, I like it because it's so easy to see. So I'm threading that. You have to decide how deep you want your hem to be. I want my hem to be 8 rows deep, so I'm going to knit 16 rows, 8 for the inside and 8 for the outside. I'm removing the hardware, 2 clothespins, 2 weights. You can get claw weights from machine knitting dealers. They're very, very useful. So now I'm ready to pick up the hem. I'm going to zoom in. I want to show you what to pick up. So if you unroll this thing and look at it, what you're looking to pick up is between these white loops. So here and here are 2 of these white loops. You want to get the garment color, the yellow, and put it on the second needle. Then you want to go and you see there's a white loop, and there's the next little bit of the orange, and there's a white loop. This is the next one to pick up, but put it in on the empty needle. Then get the next loop, put it on the rightmost of the 2 that we're knitting, then get the next loop and put it on the empty. Skip this needle, get the next loop and put it on the rightmost of that pair. Then fill in the empty needle with that loop. You have to fill in all the empty needles for this to look nice. Here's the one I skip. And then I fill in an empty. Then I skip this one and put my next stitch on that one. And put the next stitch on the empty. Skip that one. Next stitch on that one. This one goes on the empty. Skip this one, put the next stitch on this one, and then fill in the empty. And next stitch on the rightmost of that pair, and fill in the empty. And I have one left. I'm going to put it on this one, on the end needle. Now I'm pushing them all back, and I'm taking my fingers and pulling the knitting down against the machine so that it's underneath these curved sinker posts. And I'm going to use weights. I'm just leaving that waste yarn on for now. And I'm going to knit some rows so I'll have a nice size sample. Well, that's a good size sample. I'm cutting that yarn. I'm taking the hardware off. This ravel cord can be pulled out and the waist knitting will come off with it. So I pull to the right and I just pull the ravel cord right out and the waist knitting comes right off. I can have a sneak peek if I want to see what my hem is going to look like. So there's my hem from the inside, and that's how it looks from the outside. I go across to drop the hem, and it comes right off the machine. Now I'm going to go get a knitting needle so that I can show you something that will make your hems look better. This is just a straight knitting needle. You could use a pencil or a chopstick or a piece of dowel. I am sliding it in the middle of this hem. And then once I've got my knitting needle down the middle of the hem, I grab the knit fabric and I pull it this way vertically. That sets the hem, and that gives you that beautiful mock rib look. I really like the looks of a 2-needle mock rib hem. So that's one of the hems that can be done easily on almost any machine. If you enjoy this kind of content, you can help me out by clicking the subscribe button. YouTube keeps track of these numbers, and it helps them to determine what sorts of videos to suggest people watch. And I'd like to have a lot of hand knitters seeing our machine knitting videos.